What's going on? Cabana Greg here. Now today's video is going to be a little different from the usual. I'm actually not going to be talking about games, which is like kind of surprising and weird. But yeah, today I'm actually going to be talking about these Blu-rays that I have. They're called Criterions, and I have a decent amount of them. First of all, just just laying it all down. Criterion Collection is what it's called, and basically what they do, they're a company based out in New York, and they're mainly trying to preserve and restore classic and contemporary films. So there's a lot of like Hitchcock and Kurosawa. There's like a lot of famous directors you'll hear pop up, Wes Anderson. But basically that's what they do. They take movies that are really old sometimes, and they just preserve them and make them look nice. That's just putting it very briefly. But yeah, this is something different from the usual stuff that you'll see on my channel. And I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun to talk about some other stuff this time around. Not so much games, but this time movies and what I think of these movies. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the movies, and I'm also going to be listing off the spine numbers. They're basically organized or like categorized or by numbers, numerical like spine numbers. So this is 3. This is Hitchcock's The Lady Vanishes. This is, I think, the second or third Hitchcock film that I ever saw. Here's the disc. And yeah, I really like this movie. This is one of my favorite Hitchcock films. A lot of great twists, a lot of suspense, a lot of fun, and it's yeah, it's one of the ones I remember fondly, because I'm actually like I go back and forth with Hitchcock a lot, but I do like Lady Vanishes. So if you have any interest in Hitchcock, highly recommend this. And it's actually pretty funny. One of my other favorite Hitchcock films is Strangers on a Train. So I think anything with trains and Hitchcock I like. So keep that in mind. All right, now we have spine number 4. This is Armacord. This is Federico Fellini's Armacord. And this is a really beautiful, colorful movie, as you can see. Boom and boom. And this was basically this is a very personal film for Fellini. It depicted a lot of his early childhood and like what that consisted of. So this is one of his more personal films. It's one of his more funny and entertaining films, in my opinion. But it's really something cool. So I highly recommend Armacord. Then we've got Spine 24. We have High and Low. This is Akira Kurosawa, probably one of my favorites of all time. Movie-wise and directors, I do love him. Here's the inside. And High and Low is really neat. It's one of those movies where it only takes place in like one location for the first half of the movie, and then as it goes on, they start to go on transit systems, and the characters explore the outer reaches of the city. But it's mostly about a kid being taken, or being kidnapped, I guess, not held hostage, but he's kidnapped, and then this like really affluent family has to try and get him back, and it's like a whole thing. But this is one of my favorite Kurosawa films. Highly recommend it. So there you go, High and Low. Next is Spine 35. This is Diabolique. It's a French film. Funny, if you guys saw A Simple Favor that just came out this past year, there you go. It's a Paul Feig movie. They actually referenced this film because there are a lot of events that happen in A Simple Favor that also are in Diabolique. This is an excellent movie. I'm not a huge French cinema fan, but this is such a good movie. I love it. I've watched it at least like 4 times at this point. Very good. Okay, another Kurosawa is a box set. We have 52-53. This is Yojimbo and Sanjuro. So they're both directed by Kurosawa. Here's Sanjuro and Yojimbo, and it's just this. These are excellent samurai movies. I really love Akira Kurosawa. Kurosawa works a lot with Toshiro Mifune, I believe. Yeah, so he's incredible. He's the main samurai dude in both of these films. Highly recommend if you have any interest in samurai flicks. Kurosawa is a go-to. Those two in particular are really beautiful and very entertaining. Speaking of entertaining, we have 39 here, and I realize now that somehow these got out of order. Whatever, don't judge me. This is Tokyo Drifter. It's a Japanese film. This has some of the, there you go. This is some of the weirdest editing out of any film in my collection. Like this has some really weird just cuts. I don't know. It's not a bad thing, but there were moments the first time I saw this movie, I was just like, what? So like, not a bad thing, but just very different. It's beautiful though. The color, I mean, you really can't tell from here, there's probably a glare, but the color in this film is excellent. It's also a lot of fun, there are a lot of great sequences, but for some reason the editing still throws me through a loop. It's very well done. Not to say that like editing is sloppy or poor or anything, but like it's good. Next we have Spine 44, The Red Shoes. This actually, Darren Aronofsky for Black Swan, he took heavy inspiration from this film. And it comes down to one of those classic, like, there you go, an artist trying to perfect their craft and like how far they're willing to go, but also like the things that they're willing to sacrifice, including their like mental well-being. This is an excellent film. It's actually one of my grandmother's favorite films, so that's why I picked it up in the first place. Very, very good movie though, Red Shoes. Next is at 56, we have 39 Steps. This is actually, I remember watching this for a class. I don't remember much about it, to be honest. I know there's just the famous crop field airplane scene, and like that's about it. I really don't remember 39 Steps, unfortunately. Yeah, so maybe someday I'll rewatch it. There you go. I say it's bad, I just don't remember. Now we have 57, we have Charade. I love Charade. Here's the inside. So this is Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn. Very, very fun, colorful, just all around great movie. If you haven't seen Charade, it's a masterpiece. Highly recommend it. Next we have 65, we have Rushmore by Wes Anderson. There you go. So this is actually, I always go back and forth with Wes Anderson stuff a lot, but this might be either my favorite film of his or it's like at least my second favorite. If off the top of my head, if I had to say what my favorite one is, maybe it's Fantastic Mr. Fox. I really don't know. But this is a great film. Bill Murray, Jason Schwartzman. Very funny, very dark at times, but one of the director's best in my opinion. Next we have 91, we have La Blob. My aunt told me to get this one. It's good. It's like a pretty silly, like B horror movie thing. But the way that they actually created the Blob and made the Blob actually seem like a monster in the film is really smart and like, it's just clever. They built like little miniature replicas of the sets, and then they would shove a bunch of slime under the doorways, and then it was really cool. So the special features on this are really something worthwhile, especially if you're into like the low budget end of things and like you're just looking for creative ways to make your movie, unique, I think highly recommend this then. All right. There's another film I actually don't remember too well. This is 93. This is Black Narcissus. I don't remember too much. I just know there's like a nuns, which you get from that. But yeah, it's like nuns and stuff. I don't remember this one too well, so it's unfortunate. There are a lot of movies in here that I just blindly bought and either haven't gotten around to watching or like watched once and was like, okay, and that's it. So there are at least a couple more in this stack, I can assure you. We have 98. This is La Ventura. This is Michelangelo Antonioni. This is the old case, so like you'll notice it's really thick and kind of disgusting looking. But this movie is excellent. They released this on Blu-ray, so I might just buy the Blu-ray version because it's like, I think it's got the same features and everything. It just is like a nicer looking package, and I'm all about that. This is one of my favorite Italian films of all time. It's not the most entertaining movie, but it's definitely one that you can keep rewatching it and pick up little things hidden in the environment that tell the story, and it's really cool. So not very entertaining, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just more like you sit down and you get overwhelmed by like how much is just being thrown at you when you watch it. So it's good though. All right, this is one of my favorite films of all time. This is 133. This is The Vanishing. Now I don't remember if this is like oh god, I don't remember it might be Dutch, I don't remember. But this is like the second one Criterion ever bought. And they remade this film, of course. They remade this film a few times actually, but this is the best version of it. One of the best endings of all time. It's an interesting movie in that you learn just as much about the protagonist as you do as the antagonist, which you really don't see in a lot of American films or like big, it's just like a very different approach, but it paid off immensely. Like I said, one of the best twists ever. Highly, highly recommend you check this one out. I think it's called Spluers. That's what it's called, and then translated, it's called The Vanishing Zone. All right, 151. We've got Steven Soderbergh's Traffic. This is a very interesting one. Not that it's bad, but it's really something cool. The way that they color the cities and they color the desert scenes. It's all very deliberate and very interesting. I've never seen color used in the way that it is in this film. I'm surprised the Oscars hasn't made like a color grading or color correction Oscar, because this should have won. I don't even know if it won cinematography, but it's very interesting in how this movie is colorized, and it fits with it perfectly. Might be my favorite Soderbergh movie. I have to look at all of his films again to really give that with like certainty, but it's a very good movie. Next I have 157. This is another Wes Anderson film, Royal Tenenbaums. And I like Tenenbaums quite a bit, actually. First time I saw it, I was like, it's good, but the second time you watch it, there's really so much going on with like the characters and the story, how it's structured. It's a very, very surprisingly like dense movie, but it's super rewarding and very well done, very well written. So highly, highly recommend you seek out Royal Tenenbaums. Yeah, I know a lot of my friends think this is like his best work, and I agree. I think it's very much like in the top that he's ever made. Don't know if it's my favorite though. Again, it might be Rushmore, it might be Fox, I'm not sure. Next we have 164, we have Solaris. This is a Tarkovsky film. Tarkovsky is a Russian director. I don't know if he's still alive, probably not. Solaris is, his movies in general are just like 3-hour Russian sci-fi epics. They remade Solaris with, I think, George Clooney's in it. I think Soderbergh might have directed this one too. Not this, but the Americanized one. This is an incredible film. It's very, very, not slow, but it is one of those films that takes its time. It is, like I said, it's like 3 hours basically. You gotta sit down and know what you're getting into. But this is one of the best science fiction films of all time. And Tarkovsky is just like such a good director. He's another one of those just like puts a bunch of information out. You either pick up on it or you don't, but you can still appreciate how pretty this movie is. So highly recommend Tarkovsky stuff, and Solaris especially. Stalker is at my apartment. Haven't watched that one yet, but looks amazing. Annihilation took a lot of inspiration from the basic premise of Stalker, but we won't get into that. Next I have 175. Is that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So there you go. This is Terry Gilliam's. This is a film directed by Terry Gilliam, I should say. First time I watched this movie, I was very unsettled and very disturbed, which, you know, it kind of is meant, I feel like it's meant for you to feel that way. Second time I watched it, though, I really had a good time with it. I was laughing a lot, even at the crazy, like, uncomfortable, unsettling stuff that was in this movie. It's a trip. This is definitely one that you have to, like, buckle up and just anticipate a bunch of crazy shit happening. But it's really good. Highly recommend that one, too. Next, I think we're just gonna go out of order at this point. So this is 454 or 455. This is White Dog. It's by American filmmaker Sam Fuller. This is the first Criterion collection that I ever bought. This is the first thing that I ever bought, and this is what started the obsession. The movie's good. It's about like a dog that basically gets conditioned into attacking black people on sight. So, you know, there's a lot of that in the movie. It's good. It's good. For the first one that I ever bought, I thought it was really cool seeing something just different, and you know, I like it. I've watched it a few times, and it still holds up. I do like the ending. I do like most of the movie, but yeah, so that was the first one I ever bought. Next I have 475, Friends of Eddie Coyle. Boom, boom. This is a very good film. This is very good. I can't like give you specifics, but I just remember watching the movie and watching it end and just being like, whew, that was a lot. So, Friends of Eddie Coyle, check it out. Okay, next we have 483, Repulsion. It's a Polanski film, so there you go. Say what you will about Polanski, but he really knows how to make a movie. Repulsion has inspired a lot of movies, like tons of movies. If you've ever seen a movie where like some character's walking down a hall and then like hands start coming out from each of the walls of that hallway, you know, like it came from this movie. It's inspired so many movies, and it's good. I like what it's trying to do most of the time. I like the build up, and I like it. I like what it tries to do. I'll say that. But as a whole, I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I've seen it once, saw the features, saw the making behind it, enjoyed it, but I don't think I'll ever watch it again. It's very, very good, but you should look up what it's about, because it's a little intense. The actual, what happens in the movie is kind of intense. Not for everybody. Next we have 45. This is Last Days of Disco, by Whit Stillman. He's an interesting director. Also, this has Cate Blanchett. I think this is like, or not Cate Blanchett. What's her name? God, give me like, it is Cate Blanchett. Oh, Kate Beckinsale, the Underworld lady. So this is like one of her first ones. He's an interesting director. He's an incredible writer, though. He's got such a way with dialogue. I think out of all of his movies, like no, I just like the writing mostly. I was gonna say this might be my favorite one of his. I don't think that's true. This is a pretty good film. Just basically like showing the days of disco and how it gradually came to an end. But the writing in that movie in particular is what I remember the most. Speaking of great writing, we have 46. We have Homicide. This is David Mamet, who I think he started out doing plays, but Homicide is excellent. I really, really love this movie. I've seen it, I think I've only seen it twice, but it's very rewatchable. It's a great ending, has a great, very relatable, not relatable, but, you know, you could watch it nowadays and still walk away being like, you know, stuff that's going on today basically is representative in this movie. It's very, very good, highly recommend it. I don't remember this movie, but this is 491, this is Z. I believe this was like a political film. I don't remember much about this movie, honestly, so I'm just gonna skip it, unfortunately. Next we have actually Hunger. This is 504. Hunger. This is one of Michael Fassbender's early films, and it's absolutely incredible. It's about the hunger strikes in Ireland, and it's really, really great. This is also Steve McQueen's one of, I think, either his first feature or like one of his first features. So this is The Widow's Guy, 12 Years a Slave Guy. Yeah, it's excellent. Check out Hunger if you're a fan of Fassbender or Steve McQueen or just good movies. Next we have 536. Thin Red Line, Terrence Malick. And here we go. So Thin Red Line's probably one of my favorite war films of all time. It is more of a philosophical trip than it is I guess a war film. There are sequences of battle and bloodshed and stuff like that, but it is really more of a commentary on how we as like humans, and more specifically when we wage war, how it affects the environment, how it affects nature and our surroundings and stuff like that. So it's really more of a story of that. The war is prevalent, like it's not the focal point at times, even though there are big sequences going on. The end of the movie really asks you that question, is how I'll put it. So very, very good though. Very good movie. All right, next we have 540. We still got so many. We got Darjeeling Limited. This is another Wes Anderson film. This is a good film. I do like, it's not one of his more entertaining films in my opinion, but it is, I love the characters in it. I love the actual setting of these guys, these three brothers being on a train. It's cool. Actually, this was like the first Wes Anderson movie my mom watched, and she actually really liked it. She's very picky with movies, so yeah, this is a good Wes Anderson film. Highly recommend if you're a fan of Wes Anderson, check it out. We have 541. We have Boom, Night of the Hunter. Boom. This is one of my all-time favorites. This it plays out, or I should say, the look of it is very similar to like a storybook. There's just like a lot of like very, very heavy silhouettes and like high contrast scenes, and like it's very, very pretty. There were a lot of films that were inspired by this one. One that comes to mind is Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. He references a key scene from this film in his first feature, which was Do the Right Thing. So a lot of people have taken inspiration from this film, and it's 100% one of my favorites of all time, like hands down. Next we have 543. We have Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times. Now, I really like Modern Times. This is the first Chaplin film I ever watched, and I think it's excellent. Really, really funny stuff in here. This came out in 1936, and I still think it's like one of the best comedies I've ever watched, which is like, it's crazy. But yeah, I love this film. So check out Modern Times if you haven't watched it already. I actually have 2 more Chaplin films in here, so we'll talk about those later. But next we have 551. This is Guillermo del Toro. It's Cronos. This is the first feature that he ever directed. It's basically a vampire film. It's a really good one. Ron Perlman's in it. Highly recommend you check out Cronos. I love this movie. Okay, next we have a hard watch, but also a very good one. This is 553. This is Fish Tank. Boom. So Fish Tank is another film, one of the earlier roles for Michael Fassbender. It's a film from the UK, of course. And yeah, it's just about a girl growing up in these like projects, basically, slum areas in the UK. And she has this desire to dance. She's not the best at it, but she really does love it. And there's a lot of crazy, weird stuff that happens with her and Michael Fassbender. And it's hard to watch sometimes, but also very good. Next we have Still Walking. Oh, and this is 554. I feel like I've said 550 stuff a bunch of times anyway. Still Walking, this is a very, very good film. I believe the director's latest film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes for Shoplifters. That's like his new film. Still Walking is predominantly or mostly about this one family and just kind of following their day-to-day. I think it was like after their son passed away, you really kind of like get to see how the family dynamics have changed and stuff like that. I've only seen it once, but I really enjoyed it the first time around. There's this great like wide shot where it just shows like the family coming from a cemetery, and there's just like a train in the background just like passing through, and you really get a good sense of that area. I don't know, there's something about that shot, but it's like very, very pretty, and a lot of film theory people and like a lot of just like film analysts, I guess, look at that scene, they like love it. It's a very good film though. So next we have 562. We have a Blowout with John Travolta, actually. Yeah, so this is Brian De Palma, who does like a lot of like suspensey, like thrillery, like stuff like that. This is pretty good. This is actually the first De Palma film I ever watched, and I really, really like it. John Travolta he's primo in it. So if you're a fan of De Travolta, highly recommend it. If you're into like suspenseful, action-y movies, kind of, I recommend it too. Next we have another Chaplin film. We've got 565. We got The Great Dictator. So yes, this is the film that most people know from Chaplin. It's the one where he basically is poking fun at Hitler. So I think this is my favorite Chaplin film. Just did a lot of great stuff before anybody else did at the time. You know, he took a lot of risks, and you know, most people wouldn't have, but he did. And yeah, it's very, very funny. One of his first talkies, so it's just good. Next I have 579. This is one of my favorites of all time. This is Phantom Carriage. This came out in like the 20s? Yeah, it came out in 21. You know? So the cool thing about this movie was it was doing a lot of neat like special effects things that like we really, like no one saw in the 20s. They were doing like a lot of overlaying of film strips to create this illusion that people were coming out of like their bodies as like apparitions or ghosts. And considering like this came out, like I said, in the 20s, what they were able to do with the resources they had is really impressive. Like very, very cool. I guess you could call it special effects, just very cool special effects. Really neat narrative where basically at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, I believe, if you die at that time, then you have to be the new Reaper, the new like the new Reaper, Grim Reaper for the year. So it's like, it's cool. It's a cool story. It's also like heartbreaking, but it's a good one. This is a French film, 593. It's a Belle de Jour. I remember liking this movie a lot. I believe it's about prostitution because it's a French film. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the main thing is about prostitution. The main actress, I forget her name, but she's excellent. I really remember liking this movie though. Unfortunately, I don't have really much more to go on that. Next to the movie I haven't looked at, 600. It's Anatomy of a Murder, or a Murderer. I haven't seen it. This is one of the ones I blind bought, so I really can't speak to it if it's good or not, but I'm sure it's good. All right, next we got a weird one. We've got 611. We got Being John Malkovich. This is a Spike Jonze film. So Spike Jonze did Her, if you guys know that film. This is super weird, super creative, and you really don't see many films like this anymore. That's why it's super special. That's why a lot of people remember this movie, but it's really good. That's a good one. We have another Chaplin film. We got 615. Gold Rush. There are a lot of memorable scenes in the Gold Rush. I wouldn't say it's my favorite of Chaplin's work, but there are like plenty of funny, memorable scenes, and I still think it's worth a watch. And all right, we still got plenty to go. I'm gonna break this up into 2 parts. We're gonna come back and keep talking about the rest of the movies, all right? So I'll see you guys on part 2.